To all the females that I used to know, sorry that your boy had to come and go, but I still got love for you and you and you and you and you.
This is your lunchtime lesson. I hope that your Friday is going well. We are on our last day of fashion biases, dating, genders, and all the rest of that. So today, let's talk about decades of fashion. And when I say decades, I do mean the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and where we're at now. I'm going to put this disclaimer out. I believe people have short memories because we love to talk about what the millennials are doing now and how their fashion is crazy and cross-dressed and looks crazy. But when we hit on the 70s and you go back and look at some of these Commodore pictures and some of these Earth, Wind, and Fire pictures and these tight leotards that niggas was wearing back in the day with their chest out, you would think that they were suspect too. So, fashion of the decades, 70s, roll the montage. So, 70s fashion, you had tight for entertainers, groups, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Commodores, who else? Who else can we say? In the 70s?
James Brown.
Yeah, James Brown. Tight, chest all out, press, process, you know what I'm saying? Fashion. And I believe once we get finished with this, you will believe that fashion is fluid and you cannot judge a person by what they put on their body. But yet, can we say this? If you were not an entertainer, you came out in some of that stuff, would you be talking about? So let's go to the 80s. Montage roll. Go. Rebecca, let's talk about some of the 80s and the androgynous wear and how niggas was wearing makeup and all the rest of that.
Prince is a great example.
Yes, he is.
Prince, the artist, amazing. I could be wrong, but I feel like people focus more on his art than on his fashion and on his, whether or not he wore makeup. I think people really hone in on his art, and I think that's beautiful. And I wish we could just always do that with everybody, especially with one another.
Would you date Prince?
Yeah. Like, is that a rhetorical question? Of course.
Well, I mean, like, if he was just a regular dude, you know what I'm saying? But this dude had his hair done and had makeup on and had his ass out, and all that stuff. Would you date Prince?
If I saw him, at the store and he approached me, I would feel like, are you out here? Like, I would feel like he would be not faithful. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'd be like, I don't want to be cheating on. Like, I don't know. Prince looked like a player. Like,
oh Lord. Okay. So let's go to the 90s. The 90s, montage roll. We have baggy jeans, big coats, starter jackets, jerseys, and then America was kind of, I just remember just me getting into European fashion. You had things that were like clear plastic stuff that was going down the runway. You had things that were just not American. If you can understand what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? When bespoke suits and everything and tailored things were coming out. And you can even tell by the 90s shows that things weren't tailored correctly. Things were just real, even from suits, from watching Frasier, from watching a lot of shows, a lot of fashion was just bulky. It hung. It didn't drape. It didn't fit you well. So let's talk about the 90s.
So I remember in the 90s, my brother's 7 years older than me. So he used to wear really baggy jeans. And every time we would visit my family, like my family would come in from out of the country or whatever, my grandmother would purposely pull his pants all the way down. And she'd be like, if you want to wear big pants, just take them off. And she would pull them down.
Crazy. That's crazy. And I believe that the 90s to me is where, let's say, this masculine dress kind of took a huge uptick. That's a word that's being used in the thing. Huge uptick, because you had, just talking about socially things, crack was like huge even in the 80s, but in the 90s it was huge. So you had what we would call urban look, you know what I'm saying? Gangsters and hat to the side, baggy clothes, especially in New York, East Coast type things and stuff like that. So would you date the urban guy?
Oh yeah, because even going into the 2000s, that was still a thing. So when I was in, getting to that teenager, adolescent age, the style was to wear those back to sag, to start, not only to sag, but I don't know if it's a Southern thing, to starch them up, crisply.
Starch it down. You don't know that, yes. Stay flow.
But it was tall tees was the thing.
Tall tees, okay.
So
I remember Dickie suits. Like niggas would have Dickies.
They still
dark.
I feel like to this day they still wear. But yes, you're absolutely right. Yes. So would I? Yes. And did I? Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about 2010s. Fashion. I just remember Lil Wayne. I was a huge Carter series fan, and it was more like I'm just gonna be out here almost naked. I'm gonna wear these wife beaters and these jeans. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z, that was during the time of Kingdom Come and all the rest of that, wife beater and jeans. You know what I'm saying? It was just that era of clothing. So masculine still was huge because hip hop was the shit. You know what I'm saying? Is the shit. So more of fashion takes on what is popular in that time. You know what I'm saying? Just the 80s rock and kind of androgynous, kind of soft, slow music, you know what I'm saying, was good. Madonna and all the rest of this stuff, putting on whatever. But even in the 2000s, let's talk about a kind of weird guy who is my favorite basketball player, Dennis Rodman.
Yes, I knew you were going to say.
He is my favorite basketball player, but Dennis Rodman had some weird things going on with him, with the hair, with him.
He dated Madonna.
Huh?
He dated Madonna.
Yes, he did. And with the dress and all the rest of that stuff. And I just believe Dennis Rodman is a true person that we can look up to who did not let things bother him about how he presented himself. Even just as a black man, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, he did not let things bother him. So I believe that we need to understand that as we go forward throughout our time in our lives, that do you. There's nothing weird about you. Do you. If you want to do that, do that. And that's all I have to say about that.
I agree.
That's it. So for more relationship advice, please buy my book, Me Before We, at mebeforewee.tv. And this has been your lunchtime lesson.